Sagittarius 2, the ocean covered with whitecaps. This is an image of constant restlessness. The ocean is much moved by the wind and throws up these white horses on the top of the waves, and they look very beautiful and they look excited and exciting. It's how life is. It's a really good image for the operation of our unconscious nature. The ocean is always representative of our unconsciousness, whether it's personal or collective. And the fact is you can't hold the ocean still. It just goes around and around with the moon pulling it one way or another, and then the wind making it either excited or calm, and so on. And that's the nature of the ocean, and it can never be still. Such is our unconsciousness on a personal level and a collective level. So on a collective level, you see there's no point at all in history. There's no day ever without news. There's always something new, something moving things along in a given direction, always. And that's been the case since the beginning. There is no stillness in life itself. Life does not know stillness. It can be a temporary period of less restlessness, and we call that stillness. Some days seem like that, don't they? But we're really not looking close enough if we reckon that life is ever peaceful. It's just not. And nor is our unconsciousness, nor is that essential force of unconsciousness that drives us into a way of being which is always changing, always. And certain of these changes we try to control, and we have our own tiny, tiny little lives under our control to some extent, but not fully. And then something happens. Spirit moves us, or nature moves us. And those two forces of spirit and nature are infinitely greater than who we are and what we are and what we can do. And we just really may be trying to fool ourselves to think that we're in control at all. We're not. What we are is we're learning how to surf that ocean of whitecaps. We're trying to just find a way to hold some balance through the ups and downs of life. And that's all we could ever do. Just hang on there and, as long as we can on the surfboard until we fall off eventually, which we all must. And that's the game, and that's what it is. It's a game. So it's a game we can't win. It's a game we just play, because playing is the purpose of life. Living is the purpose of life, not winning. And the soul has this appetite to solve challenges, to deal with life, to solve puzzles. And if we just think of that for the moment, we have life challenges. How am I going to pay this bill? Which school should my children be sent to? What will I do in a romantic encounter? All of these challenges and questions come up. And the false understanding is that we need to answer them definitively, permanently. It's just not that way. It's just not true. What we have to do is to deal with one puzzle at a time, knowing that issue is going to come back on a different level. If we don't deal with it, it'll come back quickly and stronger. If we do deal with it, then it'll come back on a more subtle level. So we're constantly dealing with the same issues, actually. There aren't that many of them. On one level, there's only one issue that we ever have to deal with, and that's how to understand our experiences and how to experience our understandings. That's life. And the versions that we have of that philosophy translate as our life circumstances. We may not do very well in a relationship and end up in a separation and divorce. But we'll have another go usually. Most people get up and try again, because we're irrepressible. The spirit that we have within us itself cannot be defeated. The spirit cannot be killed. And each of us is partly spirit. We're partly body, which can be defeated and certainly will be defeated one day. And the other part of us is irrepressible. So this irrepressible part is like the ocean wave. The breath of life comes along and turns a stillness of the ocean into an exciting wave form, and we just have to deal with it. And some change occurs in politics or economics or the seasons or the aging processes of ourselves and the people around us. All of these changes are inherently built into our own life circumstances. What we own, what we do, where we are, all of these things are subject to these ever-changing processes. So the idea that we can ever stop moving is silly. And what we have to do is to understand that we have attracted these experiences ourselves, the soul, on a soul level. The soul cannot imagine life without these challenges, these puzzles to deal with, because there is no life without them, and the soul knows that. So we have to just understand that our strategy in life must be based on the fact that we can't control very much, and therefore we have to remain to a certain extent very flexible and fluid, and to just dance around things instead of trying to resist them or put them under our leadership. We just have to dance around them and accept it. Now, if we go too far in this direction of expressing and experiencing our appetite for life, if we go too far, then we become exhausted. The phenomenon of burnout is real. And you do meet people whose appetite for life is such that they just can't cope, actually. And this problem is very real and deep. I've known a few people who've experienced burnout, and it's possible to lose it, just to lose your ability to cope with life fully for a period of many years, and even permanently. Some people then suffer a greater likelihood of illness, serious illness occurs, and they just lose it, and that's the end of their active life. And that's just because we go too far. So, notwithstanding our constant irrepressible appetite for life, there is also the limitations of the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body. Sometimes we simply are not robust enough to carry forth what the soul is interpreted as wanting us to do. Now that interpretation is a wrong interpretation. The soul will always be in alignment with wholesomeness and rightness of being. So if you feel that your soul is telling you, or a higher spiritual imperative, like, I must pass that exam, I must get this amount of money, I must do that because that's my spiritual purpose. Well, if it makes you anxious, if it makes you irritable, if it makes you exhausted, then not quite. There's something wrong somewhere. We are not required to experience and suffer burnout. And it's quite hard to pick yourself back up again after a burnout, a long burnout. The spirit is irrepressible. You're bound to bounce back in some way, but it might not be quite as fully engaged with life as once you were, and you might need to take a more cautious and quieter approach after such an experience. So why not anticipate that and be careful not to do too much. Just balance things, and you know whether you're exhausted or not. Being exhausted for a little period of time is actually quite healthy. Getting all of your life force out there and spending it all, do that now and again. Now and again is fine. But to do it all the time, that's not. And you'll know, the physical body will tell you. You'll get symptoms of stress, permanent stress developing. that's a real warning sign, and it mustn't be ignored, and you mustn't really postpone for too long the action you take as a result of this warning. So although you have this irrepressible life energy, be aware that the body has not. The body has a limited amount of life energy. It dies eventually. So there's the balance that we have to find. How much vitality can we afford to spend moment by moment